In the heart of a kingdom on the rise, a man stood at a crossroads. This was Saul, the first king of Israel. A man chosen by God, tall, handsome, and seemingly destined for greatness. The people celebrated him, their hopes pinned on his leadership. He was their hero, their protector. But a shadow was looming, a test that would define his legacy forever. The air was thick with tension. The dreaded Amalekites, fierce and ancient enemies of Israel, were on the move. God spoke to Saul through the prophet Samuel, delivering a command that was absolute and chillingly clear. Go and attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. It was a harsh decree, a total annihilation, a divine judgment for sins long past. There was no room for negotiation, no space for interpretation. The instruction was simple: destroy everything. Saul gathered his army, a formidable force of 200,000 soldiers. They marched with purpose, their hearts filled with the conviction of a holy war. The battle was swift and decisive. The Amalekites were no match for the might of Israel. Victory was total. The cheers of his soldiers echoed through the valleys as they rounded up the spoils of war. Saul had won, or so he thought, but as the dust settled, a different scene unfolded. Saul stood before Agag, the king of the Amalekites, not as an executioner, but as a captor. He had spared the enemy king, and it wasn't just Agag. Looking around, the best of the sheep, the finest cattle, the fattest calves and lambs, everything that was good had also been spared. Only the weak, the poor, and the worthless livestock had been destroyed. Saul saw this not as disobedience, but as a smart move, a practical decision. Why waste such fine animals, he probably thought. We can offer them as a sacrifice to the Lord our God. It will be the grandest sacrifice ever seen. He pictured a massive celebration, the smoke of thousands of offerings rising to the heavens, a spectacle of devotion that would surely please God. He had taken God's command and tried to improve it. Meanwhile, the prophet Samuel was on his way. God had already spoken to him, and Samuel's heart was heavy with grief. He traveled all night, the weight of a king's failure pressing down on him. When he finally arrived, Saul greeted him with a triumphant smile. "The Lord bless you." "I have carried out the Lord's command." He was proud, confident, completely unaware of the storm that was about to break. But Samuel's ears caught a sound that contradicted Saul's proud declaration. A sound that made his blood run cold. He looked at Saul, his eyes filled with sorrow and disappointment. "What then?" Samuel asked, his voice low and cutting. "Is this bleating of sheep in my ears? What is this lowing of cattle that I hear?" The king's confidence faltered. He stammered, trying to explain. "The soldiers brought them from the Amalekites," he said, shifting the blame. "They spared the best of the sheep and cattle to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but we totally destroyed the rest." He tried to frame his disobedience as an act of piety, a grand gesture of worship. He didn't see the problem. A little detour from the plan, for a good cause, right? This is where the story pivots. This is the moment that echoes through history. Samuel stopped him. "Enough," he commanded. He then delivered the message that would shatter Saul's world. "You have rejected the word of the Lord." Samuel's voice rose, filled with divine authority and raw emotion. "Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the voice of the Lord?" He paused, letting the question hang in the heavy air. Then came the immortal words, the lesson that would define faith for generations to come. To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. Suddenly, Saul's grand plan looked foolish. His smart decision was revealed for what it truly was: rebellion. He had put his own judgment, his own desires, above God's clear instruction. He thought he could bargain with God, offering a spectacular sacrifice to make up for a simple act of disobedience. He was wrong. Samuel continued, his words like a judge's sentence. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. The impact of those words was devastating. Saul's face fell. The king, the hero, the chosen one, was now rejected. The truth crashed down on him. I have sinned, he finally admitted. I violated the Lord's command because I was afraid of the people, and so I gave in to them. He confessed, but it was too late. The damage was done. The trust was broken. He pleaded with Samuel, grabbing the hem of his robe as the prophet turned to leave. The fabric tore in his hand. Samuel looked at the torn cloth and then at the desperate king. The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to one of your neighbors, to one better than you. This story isn't just about an ancient king, it's a mirror for all of us. How often do we hear a clear instruction from our conscience, from our faith, from a place of deep knowing and decide we have a better idea? We rationalize, we bargain, we think we can make up for small disobediences with big, showy gestures. We think our good intentions can excuse our actions. Saul's tragedy teaches us a powerful, timeless truth. God doesn't want our grand performances if they are built on a foundation of disobedience. He doesn't need our impressive gifts if our hearts are not aligned with His will. What He desires, more than anything, is our obedience, a simple, humble, trusting obedience. It's not about being perfect, but about having a heart that truly desires to listen and follow. The story of Saul is a cautionary tale, a powerful reminder that the greatest offering we can ever bring is a willing heart. Obedience is the true language of love and respect. It's better than any sacrifice we could ever imagine. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores the deeper truths of life. See you next time.